but they're really criticizing science because I represent science.
If you're vaccinated, you really don't need to worry about getting it in a way that's serious or transmitting it.
That is true. That is correct, Chris. It'll either protect you completely against infection, and the chances are very likely that you'll not be able to transmit it to other people. The risk is extremely low of transmitting it to anybody else. Full stop. Vaccinated people are clearly capable of transmitting the infection.
Where did this virus come from, do you think, today? Did it come from a lab? Was it man-made?
When you have the animal-human interface, and you have animals that come out of the wild that are sold at these open, what they call them, wet markets.
Place of origin was not within the market itself.
No, I don't think you could say that.
There's a report today that another intelligence arm of the U.S. government, this is inside our energy department, has joined the FBI in concluding that COVID began with a lab leak in China.
Dr. Fauci should be in jail. And Rachel Maddow is a true American hero. Really one of the last centuries just holding together this fragile American experiment. Of course, none of those are my words. I did not ever say that, and I will never actually say that and mean it. That is the message, though, that one of my favorite senators is sending. And look, I know that everyone has their own opinions and their own thoughts. And that's good. That's why we're here. Own thoughts on both Russia Rachel and whether or not Dr. Anthony Fauci misled the American people, whether or not he perjured himself to Congress, or whether or not even his own agency had something to do with the research that could have very well led to the COVID-19 outbreak. We all have our own beliefs, but I'm not here to talk about that. I want to show you what Senator Rand Paul believes.
Senator Rand Paul. Senator, they've been telling us that democracy is in danger if Trump gets in. But how would you describe what they've been doing to us?
Well, you know, democracy is in danger because you realize, Laura, you can't have democracy unless it's filtered through Rachel Maddow. We can't let Donald Trump speak directly to the people. By all means, democracy will only survive if he is channeled and filtered by Rachel Maddow. I mean, to listen to the ridiculous nature of these people who every day blather on about democracy is going to be defeated and we're going to lose democracy. And then the next breath they come out and say, but we must ban Donald Trump from being on the ballot because, God forbid, the American people, we cannot let them have a choice and let them vote for him. So it is a bizarre notion. And they have these convoluted ways of saying, well, we need an electoral process for supporting democracy, which involves sometimes limiting people who are against democracy from being on the ballot. They really are so addled, they can't even really conceive of how ludicrous the things are that they're saying.
Now, Senator, we discussed the fake social distancing rules that were put into place. They were everywhere. There were tyrants running around, wagging fingers and yelling at people. And Tony Fauci essentially admitting that that was just based in nothing. What should the consequences be for him for all of the COVID fraud that was perpetrated on the American people?
Everything they blamed the right on, vaccine hesitancy, not trusting government officials, the loss of trust in government, I told them over and over again, and I still continue to tell them, it is at their feet. It's not at those of us who said, well, maybe we should examine individually whether older people might benefit from the vaccine versus younger people who might not need it, or whether or not people who've already been infected may not need to be vaccinated again, or maybe people don't need 3 or 4 vaccines if they've already been infected. None of these questions were ever answered. But the more they came out with things that weren't believable, like that your 6-month-old needs 3 vaccines or your 12-year-old needs 3 vaccines, even if they've had COVID, and that none of the studies included the variable of whether you have had COVID. So they would do these large studies and compare booster to no booster, and they couldn't show that it stopped transmission because it doesn't. And for kids and teenagers and young people, they couldn't show that it reduced hospitalization or death because it didn't, because these kids were rarely going to the hospital. So then they came up with, they said, well, if we vaccinate your kid 3 times, they make antibodies.
But Rand,
I mean, it wasn't
Senator,
proof of anything.
It was all, Senator, they were lying. And the lying had real consequences for children, their mental health, their education, for business, for our faith, not being able to go to houses of worship. I mean, that's fundamental American freedoms. And I'll ask you again, what should the consequences be for Anthony Fauci?
jail. You know, I've sent 2 referrals to the Department of Justice. I think he lied to Congress, which is a felony. You know, several folks from the Trump administration were accused of lying to Congress and carted off to jail with FBI agents all over their property, yanking them out of their house early in the morning. But we have 2 tiers of justice here. It depends on whether you were a supporter of Donald Trump or you're a supporter of big government, the centralized government. But Anthony Fauci did lie to Congress. We know that from his own words, not because I say he lies, but his private emails say he was lying. Virtually everything he said in private contradicted what he was saying in public. And he was fairly honest in private. In private, he said masks don't work. In public, he wore 3 masks. In private, he admitted that there was such a thing as natural immunity gained from getting the infection. In public, he was like, we're not going to measure that. It's unpredictable.
Yeah, on our show, he said that several times. So I kept trying to push him on natural immunity, and he's that's not really a thing. All right, Senator, you've been fantastic on this.
Yeah, so the senator, he doesn't pull any punches, man. He is absolutely right. I really, really, really like Senator Rand Paul. And he's absolutely right here. Like, how insane are the Rachel Maddows of this world, man? Democracy is in danger, and the only way to save it is to essentially suspend democracy. But just this one time, it's the only time we're going to have to do it. And really, guys, I mean, obviously she's paid millions and millions of dollars to say these things, and I'm sure that probably one of the reasons that she's so passionate about it, Rachel Maddow only likes working once a week. Donald Trump is such a threat, such a danger, that MSNBC's #1 anti-Trump attack dog was pared down to just Monday nights, because even MSNBC viewers, they just cannot handle daily Trumpganda like they used to. Now, when he gets reelected, and he will get reelected, they know that, we know that, that's one of the things that's going to have to change. So I get it. I get why Maddow is on this tear, but what I don't get are all the mindless, low IQ victims that she's got that really, really, really do depend on her to think. I mean, it's just sad. The only way to put it is sad. You don't want to make fun of them. It's just sad, And as far as Rand Paul and Fauci, they have always butted heads, the 2 of them. They never agreed. They never got along. But if you review all of their interactions, it was never personal. And I think that Fauci didn't like Paul because he was one of the only, really probably the only senator that ever knew what he was talking about. And honestly knew how full of it Dr. Fauci must be. And he didn't hold back, and neither should we, guys. Let me know your opinions and your thoughts in the comments. And guys, if you enjoy this content, hit the like button. And if you love this content, join us and subscribe. Be a part of us growing our message. I'll see you in the next one, guys. Keep the faith.